In Israel's history, there were leadership that were not walking in God's ways. And so they led the nation of Israel into times of great difficulty because they were not walking in God's ways. Israel's job was to demonstrate on earth what it's like to walk with God. That was their job. A nation called to do this. In Israel's history, they had kings and leaders who made decisions that brought them out of alignment with God's ways, frankly, for expediency. Now, I don't want to push too hard here, but in Ahab's day and Elijah's day, Ahab and his wife chose a worship system that benefited the economy over the lordship of Yahweh. They chose Baal and Asherah, who were the gods of the agricultural system, the economy. They chose to worship and align Israel with what was expedient to making Israel thrive in money. Elijah comes along as a prophet from God and realizes Elijah's job is to bring their nation back into alignment with God's purpose for them, the calling, the great story. Not just our generation's story, the great story, the big story. Because we are in time, we're a part of it. We're carrying a baton from previous generations. In Elijah's day, they had dropped the baton. They weren't walking in God's ways. They chose to serve the economy, money, a system. Elijah comes along and he goes, hey, we're not serving God. No one's listening. So what's he do? He goes to prayer. And he says this. He says, Lord, please close the heavens. No more rain. He proclaims prophetically, the rain is to stop. And it does. In the book of James chapter 5, the scripture says that Elijah is a man just like us. And that when he prayed, the heavens stopped raining. And when he prayed again, the heavens opened up. That story is found in 1 Kings. You're welcome to read it yourself. But here's the deal. The rain stops and the economy crashes. 3 years of drought. That will kill an agricultural society. Your crops aren't going to grow if there's no water. Famine enters the land. It's a time of great difficulty for the nation of Israel under the leadership of Ahab and Jezebel. If you look at it from bigger story perspective, what you realize is that Elijah, the prophet, hearing from God, goes, hey, we're out of alignment. I need to call us back into alignment. Baal and Asherah were the gods of fertility who made the crops grow. But our God is the God of the heavens. And so Elijah goes, hey, let's turn that spigot off and let's silence this other system. You with me here? They enter into famine. Ahab looks at Elijah and goes, you're the troubler of Israel. You're the fault. You're the reason this has happened. Elijah turns it around and he goes, no, it was your leadership, your choices that shut this down. Okay. You ready? They show up at Mount Carmel. They have a showdown, if you will. They bring the 400 prophets of Baal. And the 400 prophets of Asherah were supposed to come, but they were a no-show. They have a contest. Who's the God? Who's the real God? Let's put this on demonstration for all of Israel. Let's see so our nation understands who God really is. He's not just the God of the economy. They have the contest. It's very clear that the Lord is God. Elijah calls down fire, consumes the altar and everything in it, and the nation in a single moment goes, oh, God's God. The Lord is God. Right? Ahab, the king, goes, man, I can't believe I got it so wrong. And then something happens. All of Israel departs from the mountain, and they go down, and they're supposed to throw a feast. But Elijah remains on the mountain, and he goes back to prayer. And when he goes back to prayer, he begins to pray for what? That the rain would come. His servant, the next generation, the young one, is the one that Elijah keeps sending to the edge of the mountain to look. So Elijah is praying, and he prays, Lord, release the rain again. Why is he able to pray that? Because they just turned the nation back to the Lord's ways. They were out of alignment, now they're back in alignment, and so now he's asking the Lord to turn the spigot back on. The servant goes 7 times. 7 times this happens. He prays with nothing. He prays nothing. He prays nothing. And on the 7th time, he prays, and the servant goes and looks, and what does he see? He sees a cloud the size of the man's hand. He does not see a rain cloud, my friends. He's not seeing rain clouds. He's seeing the alignment from previous generations. He's seeing heaven's alignment. He's seeing what people walked in for history, the walk with God in generations, that suddenly Israel has come back into alignment with God's purposes. And when that happens, he knows, you better hitch up your donkey because it's about to rain. In other words, there would be a response, a recovery. What was missing would come. The blessing of the Lord can come back on to life because they were aligned with God's purposes. Are you alive? You and I are called to walk with the Lord in such a way that we demonstrate to the world around us that God is real. We are called to walk ancient pathways. If you get off trail, it becomes burdensome and difficult, and you'll lose your way. It's difficult. But when we humble ourselves and we come back to the way, the truth, and the life, simplicity, keep your eyes fixed on Jesus, who is the author and the perfecter of your faith, that promises suddenly become able to be fulfilled through your life. That there is an inheritance, a blessing from 1,000 generations that you suddenly are able to walk in. I don't know what the difficulties are that you have faced in your life, but I would encourage you to come back to ancient pathways. When we get discouraged and we separate and we make alone and we feel like we have to go our own way, we feel like we have to forge our own way. My friends, I would tell you, please stop that. It's not what you're called to do. If you feel like you're having to forge your own way, then I would encourage you to humble your heart and look around to those who have gone before you. Learn from others. Walk in the path of life. There is a release coming. God's promises for our generation are significant. There are promises for our generation where the Lord wants to move so powerfully, and I believe you and I, we are called to turn our hearts back towards fathers and mothers. Children turn their hearts back towards parents, parents towards children. That in the restoration of the connectedness between generations, that there is an alignment possible where that generational blessing can rest on your life. I don't know where you got off course, but I'm calling you back to the simplicity in devotion to Christ.